everyone. Welcome back to our FinLab podcast, Pinter Uang campaign series.
In today's episode, we will be discussing a topic that has become increasingly important in Indonesia's financial ecosystem: microfinance technology, ESG, and financial inclusion.
So, as fintech continues to evolve, companies are expected not to only provide financial services, but also to create meaningful social impact.
Today, we'll explore how technology, sustainability, and financial inclusion come together through one of Indonesia's leading fintech companies, Amartha.
So, without further ado, let's get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Raynan.
My name is Shihan.
My name is Isabel.
And my name is Aura.
Today, we're excited to discuss Amartha and its role in promoting financial inclusion through microfinance technology.
We'll also be exploring the role of ESG, sustainable finance, and innovation in supporting undeserved communities across Indonesia.
So, joining us today is our special guest, Ms. Anissa Sabran, an ESG senior leader at Amartha.
So thank you so much for joining us today, Miss Anissa. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Before we begin, we'd like to briefly introduce our guests.
Anissa Sabran is an ESG professional with extensive experience in sustainability, impact management, and environmental and social governance across multiple industries.
So, she currently serves as an ESG senior leader at Amartha, where she leads ESG strategy, sustainability reporting, impact measurement, and ESG integration initiatives across the organizations.
We're also proud to share that Miss Anissa here is a fellow Binusian, having graduated from Binus University in the year 2012. It's inspiring to see a Binus alumni making significant contribution to both the fintech and sustainability factors.
For those who may not familiar with Amartha, Amartha is a leading microfinance technology platform that aims to create shared prosperity by providing financial access and digital infrastructure for undeserved communities, particularly women entrepreneurs in rural areas.
Once again, thank you for joining us today. To start things off, we'd love to learn a little more about Amartha. Can you briefly introduce Amartha and explain its main mission in Indonesia's fintech industry?
Sure. So, Amartha is a financial technology company. We serve mainly the grassroots economies, particularly women entrepreneurs, and we do so using a digital financial infrastructure. And we've been around since 2010, so that's about 16 years. And currently, we've served cumulatively 3.9 million women borrowers, and we use AI to help the credit scoring of our borrowers.
Okay, that's really interesting. I think many people know fintech as technology-driven financial service, but Amartha's mission clearly goes beyond just providing loans.
And as Indonesia's fintech landscape continues to grow, we're curious to know that how the development has influenced Amartha over the years. So how has the growth in fintech in Indonesia influenced Amartha's development and strategy over the years?
So, we actually started as a microfinance company in 2010. And afterwards, we realized that we wanted to grow with our borrowers. So, as the borrowers' needs evolved, we also developed new products as well. So, we started as being a microfinance and then peer-to-peer. I think then afterwards, we create other products that are relevant for our customers. So our customers needed other types of loans. There's modal, so that's a fully digital green model. And then there's also celengan, which is investment. So as our borrowers grow, Amartha also grew alongside.
It's fascinating to see how the industry has evolved and how many companies like Amartha continue to adapt to changing market conditions.
I think one thing that stands out about Amartha is its strong focus on women entrepreneurs in rural communities. Another question I would like to ask is, Amartha focuses heavily on empowering women, micro-entrepreneurs in rural areas. Why did the company choose this specific target market?
Okay, so the reason why Amartha was created back then was we wanted to solve the problem of how to ensure that lending and financing is inclusive, so that everyone gets affordable and flexible finance, and then also it's tailored to the needs of the grassroots economy. And then there's also a huge potential because there's 36 million women entrepreneurs who, one, they don't have collateral, two, they also do not have credit history and access to finance. So how do we ensure that borrowing is still being inclusive? The way we do that is we also had a lot of research before going to the market that you can find so many research that says that women borrowers actually have lower default loans. So they have lower NPLs, non-performing loans. The reason for that being is that they will make sure that are able to pay back with whatever they got. So there's like the persistence that we get from women borrowers. That's the reason why. So it's not just something that it's both, there's an impact factor and also a business factor. So in order for us to create sustainable impact, it also has to have a sound business strategy behind it. So there's that huge opportunity for us to grab that market.
I feel like that's a very meaningful mission, especially considering that the role women play in supporting local economies and communities.
So at the same time, serving customers who may not have formal financial records must present a unique challenge. So how does Amartha assess borrower creditworthiness, especially for customers who may not have formal banking histories?
Yeah, so again, one of the reasons we wanted to enter the market was there is room for borrowers that may not have credit history, they don't have collateral, they don't have access to finance. And the way we do that is we have something called A scoring. So that's an AI proprietary credit scoring. We make sure that everything is, besides the traditional way of collecting and credit scoring, it also incorporates grassroots unique specifications to ensure that, maybe in typical traditional type of lending, they're not able to get funding, but through Amartha, we also consider other types of factors, and as a result, they're able to get funding.
That's fascinating because traditional financial institutions often rely heavily on formal credit scores and banking records.
I'm sure technology has played a major role in helping Amartha overcome some of these limitations. Another question I'd like to ask is, what role does technology or AI play in Amartha's lending and risk assessment process?
Yeah, so AI actually helps in terms of determining the credit score. So it's from A until E, and it really depends on the risk of the business itself. So Amartha uses AI proprietary scoring, and we also have 16 years of data to back up the analysis of that credit scoring. And we use it as an integral part, but there's also a human factor in terms of judging whether this is creditworthy or not. But we also have something called model, so that's a fully Grameen model, and it's using AI to determine credit score.
Okay, so technology clearly seems to be a key enabler in expanding the financial access.
So, however, technology adoption can sometimes be challenging, especially in the rural areas. The next question is, since many borrowers are from rural areas, what challenges does Amartha face in improving financial literacy and digital adoption?
So in terms of financial literacy and digital adoption, it's something that is very important for us because there's a varied degree of level of literacy. So some are very literate and some maybe require help. So that's why we adopt a hybrid approach. There are some that may require a fully digital, but then there's also a hybrid approach. That's why we have more than 7,000 field officers, or as we call it, business partners. So if they have difficulty in terms of accessing the loans, accessing the applications, that's where the business partners will also help. And then moving from financial literacy, we also need to think of financial health. So it's not just financial literacy and financial access, but more important than that is financial health.
Thank you for sharing those insights.
So far, we've discussed Amartha's lending model, technology, and financial inclusion efforts.
We'd now like to shift our discussion toward ESG, which has become increasingly important within both the fintech and investment sectors.
So, given your role leading ESG initiatives at Amartha, we'd love to hear more about your experience. So, when people hear ESG, they often think of reporting, but in your experience, how do you actually make ESG part of everyday decision in a lending business?
So, sustainable reporting is definitely something that we do, but that's just a part of what ESG is. So in order to ensure that we integrate sustainability and ESG within the company, first is we have an ESG committee. So an ESG committee is supposed to oversee from environmental, social governance aspects, what can we further strengthen as a company, the overall strategy. And then we also have ESG goals. That ESG goals is basically the big principles that we remind ourselves whenever we have programs, we have to stick with the ESG goals, because these ESG goals are formulated in terms of not just the sustainability, but also how can we push the business even further. Because when we improve the women welfare, we also improve Amartha's welfare as well as sustainability. And then in terms of day-to-day, we have ESG metrics, ESG KPIs, and then an ESG team. So we have a sustainability team in Amartha to ensure that it's integrated within the company.
I really like that the perspective that you shared to us is because ESG is often seen as something that only exists in reports or compliance documents.
But in reality, it seems to influence how decisions are made throughout the organization. Amartha focuses on financing women at grassroots level. How does that shape the way ESG is implemented in your lending model?
So we always refer back to our ESG goals, because the ESG goals are designed to ensure that it's hand in hand in terms of developing sustainable goals, but also business goals, because they should always go hand in hand. So when it comes to, for example, environmental, you need to ensure that when, let's say, we create biodiversity or reduction in carbon strategy programs, we also think how can we benefit the surrounding communities, the communities that we work with daily. And then, for example, when it comes to social, how can we uphold client protection principles? So client protection principles is extremely important for us. Last year, we got certified by MFR using CERS plus SPTF client protection. We received a gold status. And then in terms of governance, it's data protection policy, as well as ensuring that we're aligning with cybersecurity standards.
That's a great example of how social impact and business objectives can work hand in hand.
Speaking of impact, we'd love to understand how Amartha actually measures and tracks it. So from Ms. Anisa's experience building ESG systems, what are the key indicators Amartha focuses on to track impact and risk?
So in terms of tracking impact and risk, we use both quantitative as well as qualitative data. So in tracking impact, we measure things like how many of our borrowers, a percentage of our borrowers actually hired their first employee, or how many of them leveled up from micro to small enterprises, and then how many of them increased the geographical area. For example, they sold in just surrounding neighborhood, then it increased to, let's say, district level or province level. And then we combine that with qualitative analysis. So every year we do a well-being survey, which is reported in our sustainable report. You can check it on our website. And this well-being survey basically captures the qualitative aspects. So the stories behind all the lending, the projects, the programs. For example, we hear women borrowers expanding their business and then actually creating a job in the area. Or we see them being able to afford an education for their family because they increase their income through their business. And that combination between quantitative and qualitative data really tells the story of what Amartha does.
I think we can see that data and measurement are certainly important, especially when demonstrating accountability to stakeholders.
Another topic that has become increasingly important in fintech is cybersecurity. For my question is, cybersecurity is a major issue in fintech. What measures does Amartha take to protect user data and transactions?
Okay. Cybersecurity is actually one of the material issues that we've discovered. So materiality issues are issues that are important for the company as well as for the communities. And the way we do it is that we align with ISO 27000. We also have regular audits, and then we also have trainings regularly. We have Amarthapedia. So Amarthapedia is an online learning platform. Through there, all the employees have access to learn a lot of things, not just cyber training, everything that they think is important for their job as well. So we integrate it through aligning standards, training, and then regular refreshments.
I think that's really reassuring to hear, especially as more financial services now move to digital channels.
So alongside cybersecurity, regulatory compliance is another area that plays a critical role in maintaining trust. How does Amartha ensure compliance with regulations from OJK and other financial authorities?
We have a dedicated team for compliance, so they regularly check any updates, and if there are any updates, it's also communicated through employees through emails, Slack, WhatsApp, and then also there is usually a mini video series where they can check if there's regular updates. And besides that, there's again trainings which we can see through Amartha Media, and those trainings are then monitored if has everyone actually watched the videos, have they actually practiced the questions, and then also in terms of sustainability, we align with POJK in terms of the sustainable reporting guidelines.
I think we can see that our regulations are consistently evolving, particularly in industries by innovation.
That leads nicely to our next question. What are the biggest challenges Amartha faces in implementing ESG practices and sustainable growth within the fintech industry?
I think the challenge would be balancing between growth and impact. So you would want the company to grow as much as possible, but at the same time, you have to maintain that client protection. You don't want to hear, someone knocking on the door asking for repayment at 2 a.m. That's not just in line with client protection policies. And then also in terms of data, for example, ESG sustainability is always big in data. As the company gets bigger, it has to be managed systematically, and you have to create a system to kind of take all the data related to sustainability to be able to monitor it. As well as, I think, digital and financial literacy, so that's something that has to be done consistently, and especially since we're moving from not just financial access, but also financial health. How do you ensure that our customers would be resilient in case there's like disasters or they lost a lot of their savings? How do you ensure that they still remain resilient?
Okay, those are certainly important challenges, and many organizations are currently navigating similar issues.
So beyond the challenges, we'd also like to understand how Amartha evaluates the outcome of its efforts. So how does Amartha measures its social impact on MSMEs and local communities?
So we measure the efforts based, there's a business metrics. So of course we measure how many, let's say, branches, or we call it points, and we've covered across Indonesia, and then how many MSMEs we've successfully served, as well as, for example, the total disbursements of loans. And then there's also the impact metrics that we just we mentioned. How can we increase the number of women borrowers who leveled up from micro to small, or how many of them actually hired first employees, which is a measure of job creation. And then there's also the capacity building. So how many of them received financial literacy training, and then how many of our business partners, how many of our employees actually receive financial literacy training, so they can actually train other women entrepreneurs to have a similar understanding. And then also the portfolio metrics, so how many of them are retained, and then also the portfolio quality as a whole.
Based on Bu Anisa's sharing, we can see how impact measurement has become increasingly important, especially for organizations that aim to create both financial and social value.
And transparency plays a significant role in communicating that value to stakeholders. How do transparency, ESG reporting, and impact measurement help Amartha build trust with investors and stakeholders?
So transparency means we are able to monitor progress, and then also you are able to communicate with external stakeholders in terms of how you're doing the performance, not just business but also impact. That's something that we're able to quantify. And then I think it promotes transparency and trust, because even as a company, since we're not publicly listed yet, we don't have a mandatory, you have to share your sustainable reporting. We do that because we want to know how much we're impacting the communities, and also how can we create a different type of impact investment. And again, I think it builds trust, because you know who you're reaching, and you also hear different stories on the field. And I think there's always a positive feedback from our investors when they know who they're helping.
Okay, that's a great point, because trust is essential for the long-term success of any financial platform.
To follow up on that, we'd like to understand how Amartha determines whether a financing program has truly achieved its objectives. So, what indicators does Amartha use to determine whether a financing program has been successful?
I think a financing program would be successful. It depends on the business metrics itself and as well as the impact metrics. In terms of impact, it's interesting for us to hear when a company is able to level up from micro to small, for them to increase their geographical coverage, and when they're able to hire more employees. Like in our latest sustainability report, we discovered that around 98,000 jobs were created. They hired more their first-time employee, and 96% of that was from women. So those are metrics that are interesting for us. And again, looking back, not just sustainability, but also business metrics. How many areas have we covered? And then how many women borrowers have we cumulatively funded?
Thank you, Bu, for sharing those valuable insights.
As we approach the end of today's discussion, we'd like to ask one final question. What advice would Amartha give to university students who are also interested in building careers in fintech and ESG?
My advice would be attend conferences, volunteer, and go to student organizations as much as possible. Expose yourself to a lot of these different worlds. You will discover what you like the most. So hopefully from that you have a better understanding from learning from others, and then also network as much as possible.
Once again, Bu, we truly appreciate your time and willingness to participate in this interview.
We wish you and Amartha continued success in the future and look forward to seeing the positive impact your organization continues to create.
And we also hope you guys find this discussion insightful and informative. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.